Hey everybody, I decided to do a video journal at the end of the month. This month was September 30th, is the date today of 2025. It was a wild month. I think Charlie Kirk was one of the most heaviest situations. I mean, there's other things that are happening lately, such as the speech about how we're going to get rid of all the fatties out of the military. That was what Pete Hegseth, the Department of War. And that was interesting. But I think what I'm doing right now is just doing video recordings, just having conversations for around 30 minutes per month. So I might do it for 10 minutes a couple of times, or 15 minutes twice, 10 minutes, 3 different iterations of that set in the month. But anyway, or I could just do a whole 30-minute altogether, which I believe, according to my calculations, 30 minutes is around 17 pages long. And that is a pretty good exploration of the mind. When exploring the mind, it's around a half a page for every mile, according to my calculations. If it's like having a conversation in the mind is speaking and retiming it speaking, that's how the duration is progressed to it goes from the time to speak to per word, and that's how much we travel with those formulas. And then I had AI kind of plug in the formula, but it's around a half a page for every mile. And I've done a journal that's over 300,000 words right now, and that's kind of my trying to figure out how to complete it is really the hardest task. Like, doing all those words is not the hardest. The most hardest is to formulate it into more of a package that people would want to be supplied to them. I mean, this is something I've been wanting to do since I was age 8, is to be able to have some sort of document people can refer to in situations that can really help them psychologically, because I don't think that's really been done in a way that can be made into like a protocol that people would want to buy, almost like a mental protocol. How there's like longevity protocols, I think there should be intellectual protocols. It hasn't really been mapped. Some of the irrational beliefs have been mapped, but I think there's more things that can be more mapped by more people. And mapping psychology is like pathologizing the flow of an idea from the beginning to the end, be able to write it down, be able to trace how the conversation might start, how it might pivot, how people might interrupt or use fallacies to subvert or distract. Because for what we cannot defeat, we can just distract. And that's what some people do, because there's what's called a boredom barrier. A boredom barrier is something that basically it is distracting, not like, oh, look here. It's more of, don't look here because it's really, really boring over here. And that's one way that a lot of people might hide, or they might hide with intention explaining about how good of a person they are. But I would like to tell all the naive people out there but bad people know how to say nice things, and they learn to use that as intellectual camouflage, where, oh, I want people to think I'm a good person. Oh, what are the good people saying? Okay, I will say those things. And that's why a lot of the intention explainers are more simple-minded when they say all how good they are. Simple-minded, like, they don't really have much diversity in how they express their supposed goodness. They use very simple words. That's why sophisticated words might help expose a more intellectual person in a good way, rather a person that has not been able to figure out how to absorb new sophistication, more content, and that kind of can delineate the people that are able to generate more ideas and progress in the mind. But I do think that doing video journals would be good, which is what I'm doing. having it transcribed, and it's like, what can I really do more with this with my current technology is what I'm thinking to myself. And there's a lot of pressure because there's so many different AIs right now, and I mean, one of them might come out on top at the end, almost like how Google was like the best browser ever, and now Google's like, uh-oh, we gotta do all this new, I don't even know which one I think Gemini. I feel like Gen Alpha are going to be like, how do we not know what any of these ones are? Because they grew up that way, so they're going to learn all their terms as if there weren't previous VHS terms and stuff that, like, part of more millennial or older's minds are kind of stuck having thoughts about obsolete technology, and is not just like mechanical technology, but it's also intellectual technology, like ways that they think that are very antiquated. And getting them to admit that's antiquated is one of the worst problems of a personality disorder. And a disorder is basically where they lack functioning in parts of their minds that can create more generativity. Generativity meaning passing the strength that one has acquired of oneself to the next generation. Try to provide more strength, output more energy than I was given, or that my parents have done and their grandparents have done, right? Because if each of my generation each of them does better, that's superior to any other father out there who hasn't actually put in their time trying to build an empire, trying to figure out how to make the next generation better than them. Because multiple generations of a lineage that does that will be able to get much further than those that don't. I mean, if I could go back in time to have my previous descendants get that clicked in quicker, even if it has to start with me, or maybe I'm like maybe second in line for that, or maybe third in line. But there are some people out there that are like, they kind of lost count maybe of how many people in their line have been really, 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 really serious about taking the game of life, knowing when to not take it as seriously, because some seriousness of life is not actually helpful. And it's like trying to lean onto more of the helpful, rational beliefs that are also conventional. Conventional meaning using conventions that have been tried and true. Yes, there's a lot that are very bad, not good conventions, which is like the antiquated conventions. And so getting out of those antiquated conventions is more helpful for younger people because they start at the pre-conventional where they don't know any of this, how to do a wheel. Like they don't know how to understand psychology or engineering and whatnot. And then they learn, oh, okay, hold on a second, I have to study some of this stuff because more knowledge requires like hours upon hours upon hours of absorbing people that are greater. And for a lot of lost men, they might have never really been around a person that has just far more competence than they've ever met with anyone else. I mean, it's like, how much competence have we truly observed in our personal life? Sometimes we have to look online for a person who can achieve so much more greatness, so people have something to emulate. Because people can really, it's like monkey see, monkey do. Like, people are too bored to monkey hear, monkey do. They want something to be seen, but the problem is that when we look at things, sometimes it distracts us, right? Getting back to the whole idea that if we can't defeat it, we have to distract it. And that personality that's saying that, oh, we have to defeat that, is the part of oneself that we have to figure out how to negotiate with. How do we negotiate with ourselves that really wants that dopamine hit? Like it just feels so good to like play a video game, or it feels so good to watch porn, or it feels so good to basically not care about what a person eats, or not really pay attention to how much water they're drinking every day. And the the problem that is like the most worst thought that goes unchallenged for the vast majority of people. Um, the question to that, I mean, the answer to that is how does it get away with it? Well, there's this small lie. The small lie is that, oh, it's just this one time, or it's not that big of a deal. And those two sometimes are right, but sometimes are wrong. When it's right, it's like, great, I was able to do it and it actually was beneficial. If I'm wrong, then I've just, it's kind of a hard thing to think about. So let me think about that again. I see. Maybe I should start writing while I talk, so I can have more. Uh, I can retrace my thoughts more better because I can write down some of the key points, and I can circle back to them and make sure I don't digress too much. Because sometimes if I digress too much, it kind of slips my mind. I mean, it's in my mind somewhere, but some of these concepts I've thought of so many times and I've written them down already that it's like my mind kind of gets bored of it because it's like I've already thought these concepts like many years ago. I mean, when I worked in Supermax, I mean, some of them worked longer than I've been born, and they just explained to me that everything I was telling them was extremely obsolete because they've already developed conventions of how to operate with the inmates. And it's not like it's, oh, they just figured it out right now. It's that in the care of inmate skill, there are a large group of people in that trade, and they've been passing down that trade for many years. And understand the history of that, how inmates would build the prisons, and like that was for San Quentin death row, that they first built the prisons with the inmates. They first were on boats. And so just like learning the history of prison and society is like, if people might try to dismiss it and say, well, prison doesn't really matter, but prison is basically the part of society that is trying to break those conventions of like what's right and wrong. And sometimes they think, oh, it's not that big of a deal that they do these crimes and whatnot, or oh, it's just this one time. Like these type of little lies that are hinges that completely and profoundly change the trajectory of a person. It's almost like they had one conscious choice and then they're now riding on that past choice, when really we can make choices to change. And that's one of the hardest part about a personality disorder, is that the person thinks to themselves, oh, this is me, this is my identity, this is who I am. Like, I'm born this way. That's another lie, that they think that they have to, like they don't control their own life and destiny. Which, there's that manifest destiny idea of that we are creating our own destiny. And some people try to attach other things onto that kind of obfuscates what it's really trying to promote. That whole idea that we become the story we tell ourselves. So if I tell myself that I'm never going to be great, then I'll never be great. But if I tell myself, okay, tomorrow's going to be a miracle because I'm much better than that, and I'll be the one that does it. Almost like the Himothy idea, like I'm Himothy, I'm Neo in the Matrix, that kind of a mindset. But I'm at 14 minutes, and what's the takeaway for myself so far? Because I'm kind of yapping about things I talk about all the time, or I think about a lot. Because it's a very, very common experience for people that are in pre-conventional, pre-rational, or sub-rational, or sub-functional. And so far my takeaway is that to write things down while I'm doing things. Because like right now I just sat down and I'm just rambling to the camera. Trying to get my time in before the midnight. Because I want to make sure I get my 30 minutes in. Just try to uh, any way possible. But I'm in my program right now to become a counselor and therapist, and I think that I can do very, very well in it, and I hope to be able to support people find their own meaning and hope in life, and change their relationship with change, or help them renegotiate their own agreements with themselves and others, which it takes a lot of positive regard from the person-centered therapy of. And so there's different types of therapy modalities, and it's better to have them all mixed in into a combination, because every single therapist or counselor has their own flavor of performing their duties and their role of providing to society an ability for a person to really better negotiate with themselves. And so when I'm talking to a person and I say they're doing my services, it's more of me exploring what options do they have available, trying to heal their legacy, trying to figure out how to unbind them from the chains that they want to be bound down to, or bind them down if they're too squirrely, because it's really all about trying to learn exactly what someone is trying to deal with. And what happens is sometimes when people are born and they're raised, they get these guardrails in life, and these guardrails in life might have been given to us on how to do things and how to behave by our grandparents or our parents or some sort of teacher or adult in our life that might try to give us some sort of guide rails on how to do things in life. But sometimes a person might bump into those guardrails or go past those guardrails, and it kind of, sometimes they realize, wow, these guardrails didn't hurt me to go outside of them, because sometimes the damage is deleterious. Deleterious meaning slowly deletes our generativity, or it slowly deletes our lineage ability, like slowly deletes us in our but the idea is that deleterious also has the connotation that more like secretly, like no one can really detect that it's happening. And so there's deleterious effects, almost like the Tylenol with the autism. That was another, I guess, interesting highlight, not really a highlight, but a really high profoundness level, which that's a really interesting thing to learn within the whole like counseling idea, is trying to figure out the different scales of life, or of the encounters we have. That too many people just, oh, something's a 10 or something's a 0. Sometimes you get into an encounter with a person, it's like it's not a 10, it's not a 0, it's somewhere in between, or it's like a 6.5, 6 point something. And so I think only have even 10 numbers in the scale might be too simplified. But some people do need simplification, especially when delivering them a new way of protocolizing their life, like creating a systematizing how they do things. And if there's too much, then it gets too burdensome. And so it's trying to offload some of that burden more into a conveyor belt, trying to have a task list that, like, the most interesting things, have them at the top, and then try to move things up the list. And then when the person is on duty to their own life, like they're working for themselves, it's like, okay, what's the top thing on my log book here? What's the top thing I got to, okay. And if it's like, oh, I can't do that right now, what's the second thing say? So it's like trying to get all the things on the task list performed. And I really do think that some of those task lists can be very simplified in some things, like drinking water. Like, don't get it too complicated. Try to have it where it's, okay, 4 liters or 3 liters, or have a measurement to it of how much water to drink per day. All right, we're going to drink 1 liter per day, sure. And then let's notate that. Let's do it again tomorrow and try to increase it and experiment with saying, how do I feel when I have 1 liter versus 2 versus 3 versus 4 per day? But another issue of doing that per day is that it takes a couple of days for the water to become more expressed to the body. So with water, it takes a couple of days, and it has the big lie attached to it, which is the, oh, it doesn't matter too much if I don't drink that much, or it's not that bad when I'm dehydrated, is what the mind might lie to itself. And it's someone who's dehydrated is similar to someone who's drunk, or similar to someone who's high. They might think, oh, I can handle it. I can handle my mood. Or someone who's hungry, where they're called hangry if they're angry and hungry at the same time. In the same way, when someone's dehydrated, it's very difficult for them to realize they have a disorder, because again, they think that nothing's wrong with them, and this is usually the pre-rational, or maybe they are somewhat rational, where they get, and having rationality to oneself requires critical thought of opposing oneself, where they think to themselves, how might I be messing up this thing, right? So the people that don't ask themselves, like, how might I, but also there's people that ask it too much and they don't do anything at all. So this is more of like understanding when to be critical of ourselves and when to give it up. And to make giving up more, the too critical thought, or like the idea of perfectionism, is definitely something that's hard to shake, because the ego loves the idea that it's perfect, but it's fake. It's just a scam. It's like the mind doing a virtue scam on itself. That like, oh yeah, hey, yeah, I'm so perfect, da 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 da. And some people might even think that they're already they've heard that advice, and they're not fully internalized it to really absorb the idea that being perfect might mean to only copy something in the past and not surpass it and surmount it. So perfect, in my perspective, is less of just like copying the past and trying to experiment in a thoughtful way to try to push past the past 100%. I think that's what like 110% is because it's looking for new avenues while still being able to apply past conventions. And it's trying to understand that once I've thought about all this stuff, other people might not have thought about this stuff. And I might have been thinking about this stuff for years. And that helps me become more of a mentor to try to help explain to people how to integrate into life as they're getting older, from a young adult to a middle-aged adult. Like Unk, I know that's like the Gen Z term, where like the older, not boomers, but the ones next in line, it's like, what is a good boomer? Like, what is a good older person, and how do we find them, and what should our relationship with them be? And it has to deal with learning their answers from questions that we can learn to challenge them. And when I had mentors, they would not want to listen to me unless I could ask them a good question, because only people that are smart understand how to ask good questions, and so they could gauge a person's intelligence based on how good are they at asking a question. And so another concept was the incorrect you language, which that's a very common thing I talked about on my channel, and they just directly told me it's the number one way to detect if someone's manipulating us. And because once when the line gets crossed between the you and the I, and that gets distorted with some sort of semantic nihilism, or like, oh, these words don't really matter anyway, or it's not that big of a deal, it's always just this one time, and these other types of excuses, and they're not unique excuses. They're very immature excuses. They believe that they're sophisticated excuses, but it really is nothing new. It's very old and tired. It's almost like they don't understand that good people can understand that bad people can pretend to be a good person, and so the very simplified good people tend to be the bad people, and the people that are more sophisticated have had more time to think about that sometimes bad can look like good or good can look like bad. There's a concept of what's worse, mislabeling something that is good as bad, or mislabeling something that's bad as good. And that whole question of philosophy of what's worse, like having a false accusation where we can't find any real allies because we accuse them of being enemies until they become enemies, which comes from the Tao of Seneca and book. And then the other problem is if we are betrayed by an ally because we were not able to sense that they were bad. And I think that there's some people that we might give them too much rope in our life, like too much, like we loan too much money to them, or we, like something happens, right, where we had trusted them to get back, return our favor. And I mean, I see it as a purchase of this person's integrity, that I understand that they're willing to sell me out for that low amount of price. So I think the storyline for that is to overcome that and understand that there's other friends that they do come through, and that even though I had to pay the price for some of them to realize that they were bad, it allows me to get more good friends. And I guess I learned how to spot the bad ones. And there's some ones that were more of the anti-heroes, where it's like they have they have their own issues going on, so it might not have been too on purpose, but I think some people know what they're doing. Or it might have been like, oh, that's kind of oopsie, and then like they feel too ashamed to really confront it. And I don't know how much it's eating them up. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Eating them up inside. Like if they're conscious about it, if they're like thinking, wait, maybe I should try to like change this interaction that they did that might have been unethical. But I think that's one thing about counseling that's going to be very strange, is that there's going to be people that are going to be talking to me about things that they've never told anybody in their whole life. They might be talking about some sort of shame they feel, some sort of embarrassment of a memory that they've had in the past. And they might have not told anybody else in their whole entire life. And them telling me is a very huge, it's sort of a gift that they're giving me to be able to have a chance to have a therapeutic encounter and try to have a novel experience with them, where they, from the encounter with me, think about it in a new, unique way, because I had talked to them, and that I could try to help them find more options of thinking, and for finding more thoughts. Because it's not just thinking with the thoughts we already have, but trying to collect thoughts that other people have, because other people might be smarter than us, which is what more higher level of consciousness occurs, is when we have to understand and realize there are other people out there that have been more rational than me. I mean, there's might be some ways that I'm more rational, but sometimes there's classic rationality that most people that read literature, most people that consume nonfiction, have basically found the classic ideas and have written them down, wrote them down for us. And some of these new generations, they throw it right in the trash. And I think that those people have deleterious maladaptive behaviors that might make their lineage not as strong as mine, and that is their punishment in life. I mean, there are behaviors that are not conducive to a powerful legacy, not just for oneself but society. I mean, if people are doing better for the legacy, trying to become as someone and trying to make a difference in the world, that creates the meaning. That's just like existential therapy, where trying to mean more to oneself. Like, what do I mean to myself? Like, how does my story get better from here? And that, like, these are the type of questions that need to be asked. And that's one problem with therapy, is that if I just tell people the answers without them thinking of the questions, then I might be giving them answers to questions they don't know how to ask yet, because some people don't know how to ask the questions yet. And so instead of me just delivering answers to people, I have to kind of explore with them how to get them to question and reflect, what does life tell me? That's kind of something that rationality requires, is what is life actually telling me? What is reality telling me? And so if people cannot do that, I try to spur them into asking questions and getting them to reflect upon their answers. And then, because most times people are doing what's called telling, not asking, rather than asking instead of telling. Because persuasion is better with asking, like asking for it instead of telling for it. Usually when people are told what to do, they just don't want to. And they'll find a way out, rather not resentful, passive-aggressive, retaliation, resentment, etc. But sometimes I digress too much, get too tangentialized. But there's different types of tangents. I think there's one tangent that is more of like a rabbit hole, and one that is a wormhole. Wormhole goes to a whole other subject. A rabbit hole is like a tangent within the same topic. So some people will do tangents that are completely unrelated, red herrings. Sometimes people will on purpose get us wrapped into something that's stupid. Like there's something called strategic stupid, where people will pretend not to understand something, and just because they're trying to be boring and get someone to not want to have to deal with their bullshit. And it's like, that's why there's just systems of understanding this, taking note of it, finding other people that are very competent, and then having agreements amongst those people that are realized that's more competent. That's why on my server, people that are higher leveled are respected more, because they've had more time to engage and prove that they've been able to integrate into the server to get higher boost percentages, so that way their engagement is worth more than people that don't integrate very well, cannot read any sort of rules on my server. I plan to have a tutorial for my server. It's already there. I already have almost 400 people on my server. Around 20 of them are bots, but the bots perform a lot of good tasks. My server has 250 roles, so I'm able to organize who's who and what's what, and give rewards to people for the behavior, or give them negative roles if they are doing things that are just patently obvious to I think anyone that is some sort of intellectual. And for the people that are intellectual, it's very obvious to see who is and who isn't. Consuming 1,000 hours of material of nonfiction books is light years ahead of people that don't. And so when it comes to having a 10-minute conversation with a person, usually I can find out at minute 2 that they don't have much intellectual exploration within themselves. They haven't really communicated with themselves very much. They have not been able to watch themselves talk, not able to put themselves out there into the world, which is why I recommend to people to at least try some comedy, open mic, to put themselves out there, to be willing to be laughed at, and to see if they can take the laughter that they give others. Because oftentimes people laugh at a comedian and say, oh, that's so funny, and then when they actually go up there, no one laughs at them, and they're like, I wish that someone could laugh at what I'm saying, when they actually try, or at least be entertaining, because comedians are actually also supposed to be likable, even if they're like, that's part of what's funny, where they kind of misbehave, but in a way that is allowed, because they're trying to push the limits in a way that people are like, well, that's actually not too bad, because comedy usually has like a edge and then like a twist at the end of like, oh, it's sort of silly. I mean, there's the comedy shows, comedy TV programming, that it's like, oh, something's super scary, but then there's a twist that, oh, it's just actually not. That's what leads to laughter, Because laughter is like in the animal kingdom, kind of a display that the threat is gone, but also sometimes people laugh under duress or anxiety and whatnot. It's possibly because they're encountering something that's making them kind of panic a little bit, which is something not to do. But about 35 minutes, I wonder if I should just do more of these, just having conversations with the camera, and just to see about 35 minutes talking with myself. I try to have nothing in front of me that would give me any sort of uh, stimulus to just. I was just looking at myself talk to try to uh, have more reflection with myself. Just, this is how I look. This is who I am. Uh, this is what I spawned in as into this video game, or into this life game. That's living my story, looking into the mirror and being like, okay, that's my video game character. Okay, what buttons do I have to press to kind of like get better at this? I mean, people are waiting for GTA 6, but like, instead of doing the Grand Theft or any of that, it's like, how about let's do, get out of autopilot and try to go, what type of character can I play? Like, am I still able to change the character selection? Some people have bad character, and so figuring out that doesn't want to be in my character, so I got to get rid of that out of my character. There's some attributes that are stuck with us, some of them that we take a long time to get rid of. For people that feel like they have too much of attachment to the past, a good idea to do is to move to a whole nother location and just try to start something new and not try to explain myself, just be better and do better. That's something that I was able to do when I had to move to work at a facility that was many, many, many miles away from where I was born and whatnot. So that helped me learn how to become more independent. That helped me not have to lean on like friends or family. Me more having to learn how to be on my own. And I think that every man should have at least a couple of years, if not like a half a decade, kind of just really exploring the world, and not really trying to run away from it, by having a conveyor belt of tasks they are trying to do while they're on duty to themselves and to their legacy. And so it's like, okay, setting a timer for an hour, writing a checklist. Okay, what things on the top of the checklist do I have to do? And then go down that checklist. If there's things that I can't do right now, I'll write next to it when I can do it. And then things that I can do now, I'll attempt for a certain amount of time, because sometimes some tasks take hours, if not years. And so it's just like notating when's the next time I have to like really check in on that. Even putting on the calendar. Everybody has a smartphone pretty much nowadays. But trying to figure, my biggest barrier right now in my operations is trying to do video editing. A lot of my videos are kind of sort of behind because I guess it's I think it's a new task for me, and that's why it's difficult for me to sit down and learn that new task. But it's like the FOMO that is also trying to kill me a little bit because it's like if I don't try at all, then I won't learn a little bit, and if I don't learn a little bit, then I will get nowhere. So I mean, I have done some of these AI helpers. Some of them are like $20 a month and whatnot. Some of them are like $200 a month, and I wonder how much of a tax write-off I can get for that. I mean, if it's part of my business, like if I can have this sort of bot that's basically serving as a secretary, I wonder if the government's going to tax AI bot labor, which, I mean, I remember doing a video like 2 years ago, 4 years ago, trying to predict some of the future possible weird, unusual encounters that humanity has yet to face. that are years from now, like a lot of AI, not necessarily ethical issues, but just like negotiation and how to operate with other humans when sharing this technology. Because I mean, there's some technology that we don't want to really share with everybody. It's like they need a license to do a car. It's like we should have a license to like pilot an AI. Um, but who gives those licenses is like another question, and like what type of metric and how do we train those people that are managing these higher level bots? Because obviously there's bots we can give to a kid, and then there's bots that are like, don't give it to a kid. um, and that's the real question of what type of bots should we give to which people. I mean, there's books that are called like Quantum Science for Babies, and it's just basically like, this is a ball and this is what happens when the ball's broken, and then it's da 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 da. So it tries to explain the idea at a comprehension that's lower, but then that comprehension level can be escalated up to way like grade 15, which is 3 levels above high school, which I believe is like either, I think master's level or so is level 15 grade, which a lot of people get disillusioned and they feel disaffected inside college. And that's partially because they're in more of an associate level, which is basically how humans have figured out is they have to have these hoops for squirrely people. Because most of these tasks in associate level can be just absolutely done so much faster if the person can actually like sit down and get it done. But people that are younger usually don't have the ability to sit down and just like do even one paper in a very effective like APA 7th edition status with all these different references and such. But AI can help with a lot of those tasks. It just takes sitting down and actually learning it. And not only that, but it's difficult for them to sit down and learn that type of stuff. Not only that, but they have a lot of their emotions flowing through them that kind of prevent them from studying very well. And so associate level is basically making sure they can like show up and not bullshit. And so that's kind of basically, they're most likely just cutting out the weakest links there. And weakest links also refer to people that don't know how to generate any income, because people who are smart should also be able to generate income. And that's one reason why with universities they also establish income with it, because it's like even a person who's smart but doesn't have a degree, if they truly are smart, then they can apply themselves to make money without getting a degree. But after making enough money to spend it to get the degree, then it's like, hey, everybody, like I was able to pay that ticket or find some sort of system of scholarship or whatnot. Like that is in of itself a skill that not everybody can do and can be failed. There's so many different links in the chains of life that can be failed. And so when people have secured things at the end, that's why it's a lot more respected, because they're able to jump through a lot of these hoops. Yes, there's a lot of degrees and whatnot that might be not very valuable in the real world. There are degrees that are. And also there's licensures that require degrees, where there's the field of people that are managing therapists and counselors of who can be that. They say that to get that, to even be considered, we have to have a master's degree. I mean, I'm sure there's some level of loopholes for that, but there aren't really any. The main way is just to be like, oh, well, I'm a life coach, or oh, I'm just consulting, not counseling, I'm consulting, or I am coaching them, or just intellectual service in general. But to providing counseling or diagnosing, that requires licensure, which is enforced in court. And so that's when people try to be, people are trying to say, oh, well, these words, they're more semantic nihilists, where they try to act like all the words are just socially constructed. But yes, they're socially constructed, and they've been written down, and there's conventions of how these words are used in the real world. When people have a job, they have high competence. And that's another thing I talked about in the very beginning, is that a lot of people have never really met someone with very, very, very high competence. And I mean, that's one reason why I wanted to work in prison, is because, especially Supermax, is because that's a place where high competence is extremely, pretty much mandated and enforced on multiple vectors. The vector of an inmate might not like me being incompetent for multiple different ways and reasons, and my other staff members might not want me to be incompetent, because that also can lead to a lot of negative outcomes, right? And so people who are incompetent get sniffed out real quick by people who are competent. And that's 45 minutes. Pretty long. I'm trying to get back into doing push-ups. I did 110 today. And it's really not that hard. I just have to get down there and just start doing a little bit, and then just escalate from there. But yeah, if you're watching this and you don't know anything about my Discord server, definitely check it out. We have a lot of conversations on there. I try to have recorded conversations. I'm trying to escalate my abilities and my production quality. And I hope to see you guys on there. It helps me track who I'm talking to, a part of my community that I'm trying to build. And I'm looking to offer some of my services to people so I can have a value exchange, and to deal with someone's particular circumstances, or to try to help walk someone through what they're dealing with, because there's so many different types of things that someone might be able to be. Like, some people might be going through something that nobody has ever been through, and the way they're going through it, because everybody has like somewhat, like, there's very similar encounters that can be generalized, but some encounters have some twists on them that takes someone who has a lot of ability to generalize based on so many experiences, like me. So I have worked for around 10 years and in the front lines of prison, and I have over 100 subscribers right now on YouTube, and I used to have around 50, but I did this like breakdown for World of Warcraft. So I understand there's some people that might be playing World of Warcraft by watching me, which, hello people that are doing that. While I was in prison, I had to escape. However, using it as a way to constructively learn, like trying to learn how to communicate better with other people, I think that is how one should be using it in a beneficial way, because there's a level of training in a virtual sense that is applicable. But then there's where people are just using it just to masturbate, and just like, oh, look how good I'm getting at these numbers. And it's like, okay, well, are they actually trying to communicate with others to learn how to shot call, learn how to basically beat the child's game? It's a child's game. Or it's a kid's game, or it's like a young adult game. Like, oh yes, 19-year-olds, that's very difficult. But it's like, all right, at 25, that game is extremely easy for anybody who's hyper competent. It's just gets boring. And it also, the main reason why it's boring is because it's learning how to be good at something that doesn't really matter. Now, it does matter in developing the skills, but understanding the lore of World of Warcraft, or like walking through the steps of leveling, isn't necessarily helpful in and of itself. It might help teach a skill, but understanding like all the meta of all the coins and all the different types of logistics of the game fills the brain instead of other logistics like how to make a business and whatnot, which is I'm looking to do. And I have a mentor right now for that who's trying to help me, but I'm not sure how that's going to go. So far it seems so good. He's helping me, trying to refocus my mind and try to clue into what actually is going to give me more momentum in going further and scaling up my ability to affect, influence, and impact people in a good way, in a valuable way that can have an exchange of service. There's also people on my server that help out on the server. There's also other servers that I'm trying to interlink. So there's some servers that I consider ally servers on Discord that I'm trying to have shared events where if they have events on their server, I have events on my server that we can intermingle our members. Another good thing is that there's different enforcement rules on each server, that some servers kick people in their own ways, but other servers would be okay with their behavior or have better rapport with them. Because some people act differently on different servers. Like some of them are just like resentful and take out their resentment on other people as punching bags on some servers. And then other servers they take more seriously, and that if they don't take it seriously, people who do take it seriously will understand that and not let them try to skip some of the conventions of the server. There's people that are like, oh, I don't even care about the server, and then they'll get like 10 negative rolls and be like, what? Why do I have 10 negative rolls? Why am I have the village idiot negative roll? And well, that's because an idiot is a person who's ignorant, a person who, it's like from Idiocracy, the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, it's amazing. I recommend it to everybody. But an idiot plot, it's like where everybody doesn't know anything and they're okay with that. And I'm not okay with that. I want to have people that are actually contributing, or not contributing, but maybe an audience, maybe just attending. Maybe they're voting in the poll, so I can understand how do I move people more to getting what people want in my community. I have a lot of information that I have in my community that's more after people level up, because I don't really want to give lurkers free stuff. They have to invest in the server a little bit before I give them any more stuff. There's already some stuff that's on there if they just select roles and look into the book list and whatnot. Some things are gate kept under level 1, some things are gate kept under level 5 and whatnot. I've learned not to give away too much of my secret sauce and how the servers ran and is organized. I mean, some things are able to be read, or even an AI could probably scrape it and explain it. But in the future, I might have a SparkNote AI where it will take all the rules and whatnot, put it into somewhat of like a ChatGPT function, where on the server people can ask it questions, and it will consult the server's manuals and give the answer as if it's like we can have a conversation with the rules of the server and the tutorial of the server, so people can very easily quickly learn things. And if we don't know the answer already, then we'll just feed it to the AI, and then next time someone asks that question, we'll already have precedent for it. But the goal of the server is to try to have people on a conveyor belt to improving themselves, be able to become someone, be able to have a recorded conversation, a podcast, or maybe to contribute in the back end of helping out some of the systems of the server to try to help improve production quality, maybe event management, event organization. I know that there's a guy called Homath that is a user. I try to connect with him. It seems like he's not really into Discord. I wish he was. And if he changes his mind, I'd be okay with that. But anyway, with him, he didn't really do that much events, and I'm looking to do events. He said he was looking for a time army, which that was a fun term for a lot of people to think about, like people who are trying to get better with time, or people who are trying to change the course of the future, like they're trying to change timeline. Because there's called reality tunnels, where the reality tunnel is how reality can be in the tunnel that we're on. And if we change how we are, then we could change that tunnel and how reality will eventually become. So we're trying to telegraph the future with our actions. So that's more of like the time army idea, but it kind of fizzled out, it seemed. I mean, it might be gate kept underneath his paywalls. And managing a sort of community like this will likely have paywalls for it, especially as it gains more value and people prefer it over other services of equal value. I mean, there's some of my competitions might be coaching services, maybe like Dr. K, because I mean, he himself is probably one of the best psychiatrists who's living, but his services are like coaches that are underneath him that they more of It seems like they just like organize conversations, um, which I can also have, but I think I can do it better or comparable. Um, I mean, there's going to be people that are going to find his stuff more than me, and maybe it's what they're looking for more than what I can provide. And it might be more of just for dudes in the very beginning until there's more uh, organization from the females on my server. I mean, it seems like there's some that are down, but I think there have to be like maybe 10 or 20 of them that are like actually trying to mobilize in some sort of way to at least do more events with each other. Um, but I understand that people have in real life stuff, or they find community in real life. That's great, but I think my server is more for people that can't. They might be in a location that doesn't have that nearby, and mine is like a portable that community. Um, I mean, there's some people that don't want to go to church, or maybe they go to the church, but the church isn't really the one that they wanted, or whatnot, or maybe they want more people that have a different type of community than what different types of religion can provide. My religious beliefs is more of trying to just help people do better. Like in the Max Security Mental Hospital, there'd be people that would come in there and like be asking me about God and whatnot, and I'm like, okay, let's just try to get them to sleep better, drink better water, work out more, and we'll talk about all that other stuff after we like get them just do the bare minimum of living, and try to help them focus on that, because that might lead to better mood stability. But yeah, I'm almost at an hour. I'm surprised in how much I did. I think I almost did double what I was looking for to do. This is like a check-in. And doing more push-ups would be really good. I only did 110 today. And I do want to do the where different actions are different types of iterations, where like curling a dumbbell with both arms is one, similar to how push-up is one, or like a squat is one, and then throughout the day just trying to get to 1,000 of different types of activities, even if it's varied. I'm also trying to figure out how to integrate my smartwatch, because my Samsung smartwatch seems to be some sort of thing I can use to organize my thoughts. Also, they have these AI assistants that can listen to what I'm saying, transcribe it, and then basically condense what I said into some of the best ideas. Like basically organize it for me as if it's my secretary. And that's just like mind-blowing. I mean, I'm sure 5 years from now, it's basically everybody's going to have it. I know that there was the real estate agency that everybody had that already, those AI stuff. And it's already that my phone can transcribe and record people when I talk to people. I mean, it says now recording very, very loudly, but I think that's the way that people are going, where they're like, let's just transcribe it and have AI figure it out. Which, I mean, that's something that might get worse or better, or it'll become more balanced based on how we can try to integrate it into our life, not just think it but do it. And I'm really glad that I didn't just think it and regret not doing it later, but I was able to do a recording of myself talk. I might upload this on my server. I know that one of my counselor mentors had suggested, I mean, more vulnerability of oneself does allow other people to have a little more respect, or be more willing to also be vulnerable back. I mean, it's not really vulnerable, but it's more just like kind of being more candid, I guess. I mean, I think some of the terms I'm using is not really fully expressing what I'm thinking. And that's because I think my vocabulary could be improved. Not only that, but I don't know the vocabulary of my audience. And that's why I hope that my audience reads more books to have a better ability to express and receive expression in a way that is more congruent with intellectuals, but hopefully people can become more battlefield philosophers. I got that wrong, but yeah, it's the battlefield out there of the mind. Get better, guys. All right, bye.